Hey everyone, welcome to another awesome Facebook Live this week. We are joined by Herbert Lewis, an ROI Inner Circle member who's been doing some great things over the past year. He currently has a portfolio of 15 properties, and recently one of his properties earned Baltimore's Deal of the Year award for this incredible property that we're going to showcase here today. Herbert has a lot of experience in investing with his portfolio, and we're excited to dive in, learn more about this deal of the year, as well as anything else Herbert can help all of our investors learn. How are you doing today, Herbert?
I'm doing well. Thank you for having me, Justin.
Awesome. Yeah, of course. We're so excited to have you here. And I know that this award was actually pretty soon, right? Or a little bit ago, maybe about a week ago, you got this.
Yeah, so actually, last week at the local REIA in Baltimore, we actually had a competition. It was myself and five other investors, and I presented this deal, and actually took home the overall prize for kind of like some of the slides we'll go through. It was very. We pretty much renovated it in 3 months, but at the end, it came out and looked very beautiful, and we're actually getting 1950 per month for it on Section 8.
That's incredible. 1950. Wow. Awesome. So you have 15 properties in your portfolio. What's like a general breakdown? Are you mostly in the single family? Are you in duplexes? What's kind of the breakdown there?
So most of them are single family. I do have one fourplex, which is also Section 8 as well. But for the most part, it's mostly single family, kind of similar to what you see here, townhouse style, and pretty much scattered all throughout Maryland.
Okay. And you're from the area and have been there a long time, so you really understand kind of this market and what types of renovations, as well as properties renters are really looking for, right?
Yes, yeah. We're from the area. We just actually moved back to California because we're originally from California. So we've been in probably the Maryland area for about 8 to 9 years. But this deal was pretty much done remotely. It was just a lot of WhatsApp. I paid out the contractors a lot through Cash App, having people kind of like boots on the ground, having a solid team in place to kind of send me pictures throughout the process to kind of just keep me updated on the status of the project. And I believe I actually didn't even see the finished product in person until just recently when I went back down to Maryland.
Awesome. Well, let's not wait any further. Let's definitely dive right into this spectacular deal. Now, can you give us a little information on how you found this deal, as well as why it kind of sparked your interest?
All right. So this particular deal was actually presented to me by a wholesaler in the area. We met actually through the local REIA, and he knew I was very interested in Baltimore County properties, and this particular property is located in an area called Dundalk, Maryland, which is pretty much like 10 to 15 minutes outside of the main city. So when I went to go see it, the area looked very nice. It had wide streets. I liked the fact that it was an in unit townhouse, and so that also appealed to me as well. But I see there was a lot of upside as far as potential. A lot of the things when my wife and I, when we're looking for properties, we're looking for value add type properties, so we can
Mhm.
make sure that we're putting the sweat equity in there as far as putting the right components to make sure that it's attractive to tenants, but also making sure that at the end of the day, our ARV is actually going to be high enough so we could pull cash out and continue to try to get that money to buy more properties.
Gotcha. Definitely. And so cool. That's definitely awesome, and I cannot wait to dive right in. I do just want to mention, I see that we had a couple of people in the chat here. If anyone does have any questions while we're on live here or maybe after, I'm sure Herbert can answer anything as well. But if you have any questions, feel free to put them in the chat, and I'll try my best to ask them to Herbert as we're going through some of these photos of this amazing deal. Are you ready to go, Herbert?
I'm ready.
Awesome. So it looks like we got the living room here.
Yeah. So this was the living room. And like I mentioned earlier, this was actually brought to me by a wholesaler. So the wholesaler was actually presented this property by the seller. She actually inherited the property from her grandmother. And at the time, her and her boyfriend were actually trying to renovate it or fix it up themselves, but didn't have the money, didn't have the experience. And so they were just looking to try to sell it and try to get some money for the property. And so when I actually purchased the property, this is what the actual front living room looked like. It was pretty much almost fully gutted. Pretty much got hardwood floors underneath there, not much else. The property did not. A lot of times, the properties in Baltimore don't have any type of lighting in the front living room. So I seen that was the opportunity there. So there, you see that it was fully gutted by her and her boyfriend, just trying to do the work themselves. And then if you jump to the next slide, you can see it, the finished. So that's actually the living room after we completed it. So one of the things that I did here is I actually put hardwood floors were already in place. So I went ahead and refinished the hardwood floors. I also put recessed light. One of the reasons why I put recessed lights, it does make the property look a little bit more modern. I find a lot of times that even with Section 8 tenants, a lot of times they want something that looks modern, looks new. And so we put recessed lights here. I also make sure that I used a neutral paint color, which is, I put it there, I believe it's Old Fossil Stone Gray. I try to keep the same patterns throughout all my properties, because a lot of times, anytime you're doing renovations, you're going to have excess material that's left over. So if you try to keep it the same, in the same style, the same pattern, it's going to actually help you save money in the long run, because you're going to have some excess material that you can use for the next project. So we use the same neutral color that we use on all our properties. And then you see there new baseboards and put a new flush mount light. You see there in the back. And just really try to make the property shine and look really bright. One of the positives I will say about this property, when I did purchase it, is the windows were in pretty good shape, so I didn't have to replace any of the windows. But I did have to replace some of the framing around the windows, because in Baltimore and in Maryland in particular, they're really big on lead. And so one of the things before I start doing any type of deep diving in type of construction, I have somebody come in there, a lead inspector come in there and pretty much pinpoint anything that has lead, and we go ahead and take that out or remove it, so we can make sure that the property is lead free at the end of the day.
Wow, that's incredible. And just off the first two photos, I mean, I hope everyone can see how much of a drastic difference it is, going down from basically the studs to honestly a beautiful living room area here. I love the recessed lighting, and I love how you mentioned that you like to kind of keep the same pattern. Not only is it just simple, but you can also use those materials over for some of those new properties. So just saving money, and yeah, I love the recessed lighting too. I think it adds a lot of light in the area, but also that modern touch that I think, as you were mentioning, some of the renters in Maryland love. So awesome. Now let's jump right in. Oh, the kitchen.
So this is the kitchen. Obviously, you can see it's also a complete mess as well. So one of the things, when anytime I walk a property, I just try to assess to see what I could do or what I'm thinking about doing. And so when I looked at the kitchen, it was a little bit smaller than some of the kitchens in my other rental properties. But I knew just from a previous rental property that I did about a year ago before this one, kind of the same similar pattern, same setup. So I knew I was going to take out the cabinets. I always put brand new cabinets in there. I prefer to use white cabinets. It's just a neutral color. And then it also gave me an opportunity to set the kitchen up the way I want. One of the things that I learned when I first started off, I used to put just laminate countertops, and which it worked for the first couple of properties that I had. But then, I did have a property that one of the tenants actually did sit down something hot on one of my laminate countertops and actually left a ring in the laminate countertop. So what I started to do is I started to use granite. And for this particular one, I didn't use granite. I used something similar, but I find that in the long run, it actually just helps the property look really appeasing, and give it that extra shine when tenants come and actually look at it.
Yeah, definitely. And as you can see here a little bit on the side there, I mean, those cabinets look amazing, and as well as the stainless steel appliances. Is that something that you normally do? Is the stainless steel?
Yeah, I normally do stainless steel appliances. And then for the cabinets, I always use white cabinets. I normally just go to Home Depot to get my cabinets. I don't go anywhere fancy. And then for this one, we used um, for stainless steel appliances, but we use quartz countertops, and that's I use the same guy where I get my granite from. So one of the things I try to ask him when I'm looking at doing any type of granite or quartz is if he has any residual granite or quartz from a previous job. You can find that it's a lot cheaper to use residual as opposed to try to use a new slab of either granite
Mhm.
or quartz. And so in this particular case, he said he actually did have some residual from a previous job. So I think for the countertops, I paid about $650. That's labor and materials. And so, I thought it looked very good. It's very durable. And then you see in the back there, we did put backsplash all throughout the kitchen. That's something I kind of learned along the ways with my wife. When I first started off, I wasn't putting a lot of backsplash in the kitchens. And then my wife told me, you got to start thinking about women cooking in the kitchen. A lot of women like backsplash in the kitchen. And so, these are just some of the things I learned as I continue to progress through our rental portfolio and add different things. So I put backsplash in all of my kitchens moving forward. And then just the stainless steel appliances. Like I said earlier, I like to try to keep it modern, looking good. And I really find that at the end of the day, if your house is very appeasing, you're going to have a lot of people who are willing to want to not only rent there, but also stay there for a very long time because they feel like it's a very beautiful home for themselves and it's very appealing to the eye.
Exactly. And I love what you mentioned about the laminate. I mean, laminate's great, it's cheap, and it might work well, but usually in the long run, it seems like you'll either have to replace it or something. So maybe paying a little bit more upfront will help you out in the long run, especially when you don't have to get a new slab of quartz or granite and you could just use those residual parts. So that's awesome. And this kitchen looks stunning to compared to what it was. Now, as like we're kind of going through the kitchen or the living room, and maybe as you, I guess, walk the property, how do you kind of in your head estimate rehab cost? Is there a certain structure you use?
Yeah, I mean, I try to estimate rehab costs, and it's different from each property. But I try to look at the square footage and kind of determine how much I want to pay per square footage. And like I've been using the same guy for the last almost 3, 4 years, and so I kind of know ballpark figure what it's going to cost just for him to do the labor. And so one of the things that is unique about my property is that I normally just pay him for the labor and I pay for all the material myself. I set up an account at Home Depot Pro account.
Mm,
So I know that, when I get the material that I can instantly see what's being purchased for the property. It just helps me to try to keep my costs down as well. That there's no markup on the materials that's being purchased if I was to go ahead and just have the contractor pay for materials on his end. So just another trick that I've learned along the ways as I continue to try to grow my portfolio is pay for the materials yourself if you can. A lot of times some contractors may not want to do that, but if you could find one that is willing to go ahead and let you pay for the materials and you go ahead and just pay for the labor, you'll find that it's a lot cheaper to do it that way as opposed to just paying for materials and labor through the contractor. So yep, just set up a pro account. Anybody could set that up. And what they do is he goes to Home Depot, he goes to the pro account, he pulls up, they give me a call, and I go ahead and pay right over the phone with a credit card. And it instantly shoots me an email and gives me a list of every bit of material that was actually purchased. So if there's something that I see that's on that email or not, or that receipt that doesn't either go with the house or something that I have a question about, I can instantly shoot him a WhatsApp message or a text message and just question about it, and he'll shoot me a response back and tell me what it was for or what the need was. And so it just helps me to keep more eyes on it because I'm not there in person, but it also helps me to make sure that I'm not being overcharged for anything that's unnecessary.
yeah. And I love what you said about the Home Depot Pro account. That's definitely, I've heard a lot of that. And that's something that Jennifer definitely recommends for renovations to make sure that, you're not getting ripped off by anyone. You understand where your money's going to what materials, as well as it just kind of makes everything a little bit easier in the long run. So that's awesome.
Yeah, and I think one thing I can say is good about the pro account that once you start doing, 1 or 2 properties, you'll start to get an idea of what the materials are going to cost, and so that's how
Mm,
you build up that knowledge to know, what a particular job is going to cost you just based off of previous experience. Because you can always reflect back, and Home Depot does a really good job of itemizing everything, so you can kind of see, okay, if how much is the stove going to cost me? Well, I see that I paid X amount last time; it should cost me around the same. How much are the cabinets? And it just helps you to keep a better idea of what the projects are going to cost as you continue to, grow and continue to do more and more houses.
awesome. Let's dive into the basement here. This looks like it needed some work as well.
Yeah. So this is a basement. And it's funny you mentioned this because I think I shot Jennifer a picture of this as well, and I asked her, should I add another bathroom in the basement? And so, I asked people who are a lot more experienced than me, kind of what I should do in the basement. And so, one of the things with the basement is I actually went on Pinterest and actually was just looking up ideas and say, hey, I want to do a basement, but I didn't want to fully do a full basement where everything's complete, everything's drywall and sheetrocked up. And so what I wind up doing is I wind up taking Jennifer's advice and some other people's advice and actually wind up adding a second bathroom down there, and that's the bathroom door right there. You can see right there. So it adds more value if you can add another bathroom into a property, because originally this property is only one full bath and a half. And usually a half is just normally just a toilet and a sink. And so what we did is we wound up putting another full bath in here. We added the shower. So that just brings more value to the property when you're especially trying to, refi, try to pull cash out. So we did that. I took the idea from Pinterest and kind of brighten up the basement. And you can kind of see what that looks like in the next slide there.
Yeah, let's dive right to it. Yeah, I mean, huge difference.
Yeah. And this idea for this basement, actually, like I said, I just got off Pinterest, try to look at different basement designs. And so I painted the walls white because a lot of times there's not a lot of light in the basement, and they put some lights up there. But it just makes it look a lot brighter, a lot more open, clean. I did use laminate flooring in the basement there, which is waterproof. And I normally get my laminate flooring from Lumber Liquidators. I find that it's a little bit cheaper to buy any type of flooring material from Lumber Liquidators as opposed to Home Depot. So I have an account there as well. So I did get the material from Lumber Liquidators. But yeah, I put laminate flooring there. The reason why I normally don't go with any type of carpet or anything like that in the basement, I normally don't go with carpet at all. It's because in case of a flood or anything like that, it's a lot easier to go ahead and have that laminate flooring out there. If we could get the water up in a timely fashion, it's not really going to do any damage to the flooring, as opposed to carpet where, it keeps that moisture in and can have a smell afterwards. So I like to try to have my properties in a situation where if I do get turnover with the tenant, it's not a lot of, getting it back to rent readiness with the next tenant. If it's some type of flooring that I can easily replace or just clean up and have it ready for the next tenant.
Yeah, definitely a great idea to keep the laminate in the basement, of course, in case any flooding. Usually it's a little bit easier than carpet, but amazing. And I love what you kind of touched on is that you were able to kind of get in touch with our community, Jennifer, as well as other investors, to kind of share your ideas and get other investors' thoughts. I was just wondering how beneficial do you think it is kind of having that like-minded group together, kind of all on that same path towards taking action and, of course, achieving financial freedom kind of on your real estate investing journey? Was it kind of really important for you?
Yeah, I think joining the Addicted to RI has been very beneficial, especially for me because I'm actually in an area in California where there's not a lot of REIAs, and so I try to stay in touch with people either through the group who have a lot of experience or who even don't have a lot of experience. Sometimes you can find that people that may have never done a property or it may have been their first one or two properties also have some good ideas of what you could possibly do because they come from different backgrounds or they've lived in places that they could say, hey, yep, this is the type of place I would like to live in. And so I find it's very beneficial to belong to a group like that because you're still staying connected with like-minded individuals and people that can continue to help you grow on your progress as you continue to grow your portfolio.
That's wonderful to hear. And yeah, our whole community is kind of dedicated towards helping each other reach our goals and really just succeed on our journey. So that's awesome, Herbert. I think we have a couple slides left. We got the bedroom. Do you think you could give us a little bit of a breakdown? You said it's 2.5 baths now. And
yes,
how many
now
bedrooms?
it's actually 3 bedrooms, 2 full baths. So this is
Okay.
actually one of the bedrooms. You can see that they did start to try to do the demo work, but as you can see, this is the condition I purchased in. So you see that you have the framing there. You see that there's some wood taken down. There's also a ceiling fan there as well. I don't normally keep ceiling fans in my rental properties just because I've read and maybe I'm wrong in this, but I normally try to keep ceiling fans out of my rental properties unless it's in like the master bedroom. So a lot of times, people will come in with young children, and I just don't want it to be no situation where a young child jumps up there and hits their head or anything like that and try to come back on me. So I usually just keep like a flush mount light up there. Try to make it look clean, neat, pretty. And that's kind of what you'll see in the next video. But yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
So yeah, so there, like I said, the property came with hardwood floor already. We just had to clean it up. We put new baseboard there. Used the same neutral paint color that you see downstairs. I do put new doors. So I did put new doors in there, new finishes as far as doorknobs on this, and then just try to make sure that I put a flush mount light in there and just make it look really neat and clean.
Awesome. Yeah. And I love how kind of the hardwood's going all throughout, as well as the same paint color. Just looks very uniform, clean, modern. And I could definitely see how you're able to rent this pretty quickly. Now, you want to give us a little breakdown of the numbers here?
Yeah, so that's so a little bit about the numbers. So we purchased the property in June 25th, 2021. Rehab took about 3 months just to get the property fully rehabbed. And one of the things I would say, if you are going to purchase a value add property and it's going to need some renovation, try to have your team set in place prior to you closing, because as soon as you close, you want to go ahead and get in there and not have any lead time as far as trying to find a contractor, try to find different people to do the job, because as we all know in this business, time is money. So we want to make sure that we have those things in place. And I think, this group definitely has a lot of good connections with out of state, contractors, property managers, people that can help you along the process to make sure that as soon as you close, you're getting the ball rolling. And then as far as the Section 8 process, it was faster than faster than I was expecting. So it actually only took 3 weeks. So once I got the property, I got a tenant who was interested in the property. She had a voucher. I went ahead and signed off on the voucher. She turned the paperwork in. Section 8 called me, I think, later that week. We set up a time for them to come out, inspect the property. They came out and inspect the property. It did take a little longer than anticipated, just with the inspection, because with a lot of times with Section 8, they're very particular with making sure that certain things are in place. Like I had to have hardwired smoke detectors. It also had to have certain things that they're looking for, make sure all the units are grounded properly. And so from there, we purchased the property for about $80,000. We put about $50,000 into it. And then you see that the rent there is $19.50 from Section 8. And I was just telling Justin prior to getting on this call that I just received a letter yesterday from Section 8 where they're paying $1,940, and the tenant actually only pays $10. So she only pays $10 for her portion of the rent. And so, we are open to not only market tenants, but we do prefer Section 8 tenants. And it's just something I've learned a lot of the ways to have that guaranteed income as opposed to market tenants. And I definitely was glad I did that, especially during COVID in 2020. But it worked out well. And then a lot of times when I look at properties, I try to make sure that my properties at least are the 1% rule. In this particular case is actually, I think, 1.5%. When I first started off in Baltimore, I was actually doing the 2% rule, but as things got a little bit tighter, 1% became the new norm. And the property just recently appraised for a little over $200,000.
Wow, that's amazing. 200,000. That's awesome. And you have a tenant in there right now. How
Yeah.
long do those leases work for?
So with Section 8, and it may be different in different areas, but for the Maryland, they'll do a 1-year lease. They want to see at least a 1-year lease. And what I find is that with my Section 8 tenants, like I've been doing this now for 4 years, they continue to they continue to stay in there. So it's not like you're having that tenant turnover, and that's another reason why I like to have materials in my rental properties that are very durable, that's going to stay for a very long time. Because if you could have a very durable, nice looking property, and it keeps your tenants to stay there longer, it's definitely going to be more cost effective for you in the long run. And so she's now on her second month. Everything's going great. Like I said, I just received a letter from Baltimore County Section 8 yesterday saying that they're going to pay, $19.40 of the rent, and so she's only she's only on the hook for $10.
That's a good deal right there. I see we have a
Yeah.
question in the chat, Herbert. One of our members asked, what's your minimum credit score for a tenant?
So a lot of times with Section 8, some of the tenants are not going to have the best credit. And so that's one of the reasons why we do go with Section 8. It says a lot of times, their credit won't be there. And what I like about the Section 8 program is that they do screen the tenants for any type of felonies and stuff like that. Like, you can't get on the program if you have any type of felonies. But for the most part, I don't really screen a lot for the credit, just because I know that the rent is pretty much guaranteed through the county. And a lot of times they're incentivized, the tenants are incentivized to pay their rent, because if they don't pay their rent, then they will be kicked off of the program. And it's very, it's a very strenuous process just to get on the program in the first place.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for that answer. And yeah, I guess the credit score wouldn't really matter too much with the kind of guaranteed income from the county. But that's awesome. And I kind of wanted to touch on something that you mentioned earlier, was kind of having those teams in place. And I know a lot of our members are out of state investors, and it can be tough to reach out to a contractor or an agent in a market maybe you've never been to, really nothing about. And in the inner circle, that's like what we love to do, is really take the hard work out of all of it, get those agents that we pre-vet, that are our kind of investor agents, that all of our members can use, that oftentimes have these recommendations for you. So they'll have the contractor, property manager, and oftentimes a local lending referral as well. So having those
Yeah.
teams in place is crucial. And I know you're pretty familiar with the Maryland area, as well as working with your contractor for a while here. Um, as a new investor, how much do you think of ease it would be for an investor to join, and kind of work with our teams to get a property under contract? Do you think it would relieve kind of a lot of stress?
Yeah, and I think, had I had, addicted like 4 years ago, it would have relieved a lot of stress off of me. One of the things that I wound up bumping my head against the wall for, because I went through, like, my first year, I went through like 8 different contractors. And I think, anybody who's been in this business for a long time knows how, if you don't have the right contractor, it could definitely hinder your project. So I think the fact that, being a part of this group, they're already vetted out. Like I said, the property managers already vetted out, the real estate agents already vetted out. The contractors. It's going to save you a lot of time and money, doing it this way, as opposed to how I did it 4 years ago. And I think that's one of the beauties, one of the reasons why I decided to join the group, is because definitely I want to make sure that I got the right people in place, because it could definitely save you, like I said, a lot of time and money if you got the right team in place.
I love it. And I just wanted to mention, Herbert, you are definitely invited as well. But I wanted to kind of mention a kind of exclusive offer we're running for December. We have some awesome things planned for 2022, and really want all of our investors to have a successful year and take action all throughout the year. And to kind of kickstart the year, Jennifer's hosting a 4-week accelerator program. So this program will run the entirety of January, where Jennifer will be hosting weekly live calls with all of our members, as well as any new members that want to come into our community. And she's really going to be going through kind of what you need to know to get your next property under contract in 30 days or less. So no matter if you're a beginner, or somewhere in between, or an expert, Jennifer is going to help either get your first property or keep expanding your portfolio. They'll be going over different strategies, as well as kind of identifying your markets, those investing strategies, those financing questions, and really just here to help and support, and really coach everyone as we kind of kick off this new year. Do you think coaching would have helped you kind of right at the start there on your investing journey?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it will. And one of the things I would say, whether you're a new investor or whether you've been doing it for a while, is take action. I know Jennifer's going to be going through a lot of materials, and she's going to be covering a lot of things. But at the end of the day, you got to take action. I think
Mhm.
that's one of the biggest things I see with a lot of times with new investors is is they'll join an organization or a REIA or whatever the case may be, but there's never no action. And I know it could be scary, but I believe with the support, with Addicted to ROI and the support that Jennifer, Justin, and Dina will be giving you, you could definitely be successful being a real estate investor. But at the end of the day, you have to take action on the things that they're telling you to do.
Yeah, completely agree. And yeah, just taking action, getting out there and doing it. Your first deal doesn't need to be a home run or anything, but that experience that you're going to develop from going through all of these processes is really going to help kind of lay that great foundation, as well as we can help expand on that, and as well as expand your portfolio. So Herbert, this deal has been amazing. It was awesome to go through it here with you. I would love to know, what are your plans for the future? Do you have anything planned for 2022 yet?
Yeah, my wife and I were actually looking at doing Airbnb next year in 2022. So a little bit different than buy and hold, but we're looking at Airbnb properties. And that's kind of, we want to try to at least get about 3 to 4 under our belt in 2022. So that's kind of what the main goal is going into the year.
That's great to hear, because actually in February we're doing our first investor trip of the year. So investor trips is what we used to do a while back before COVID, but now kind of things are settling down. We're excited to get back out into these new markets. And in February, actually, the 11th through the 13th, I believe, we are going to the Phoenix, Arizona market, and we're going to be focusing on short-term rentals. So not only
Okay.
are we going to have a huge group of investors going out, all Inner Circle members, but we're going to have some amazing networking events, some awesome speakers, as well as hopefully being able to tour some actual short-term rentals in the area. So we'll be learning a lot about the Phoenix market, as well as short-term rentals, and you can take that knowledge in Phoenix or expand it into other markets. So I'm excited to see what you do with the short-term rentals, and hopefully we can see you in Phoenix, Herbert.
All right. Thank you, Justin.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us here today. This is so awesome to go through everything. And if anyone has any questions, feel free to leave them in the chat. And I'm sure Herbert would be more than happy to answer anything anyone's got. Have a good one, Herbert. Thank you so much for joining us today.
All right. Thank you.